This is topical issue once more, and today I'm going to talk about something very common. The topic today is about water. This is a substance that we take for granted. We think it's plentiful around, so we can be able to do whatever we want with it. Water is found in form of vapor, which is mostly available in the air but in varying quantities according to where you are. It's found in form of liquid water. It's found in form of snow. It's found as a liquid in the oceans and in the rivers. It may appear plentiful, but there are certain aspects that we have to look in. Of this water that is on Earth, the reserves that are known, 97.5% is salty water in the ocean. There are many life forms that survive in salty water, but there are some animals like we human beings who cannot survive in salt water. We have problems. I was looking at the internet and I thought, what would happen if you boil ocean water? And I found that if you boil ocean water, there are many chemicals that need to be filtered. So it's a long process before you can be able to get something drinkable from the ocean water. I also looked and saw there are some hotels and some places where they cook certain types of food in ocean water. But under normal circumstances, it's not recommended to cook in salt water. So like I said, 97.5% of water is salt water. That leaves us with 2.5% fresh water, the whole earth. 2.5%. And a surprise to all of us. I know many would not believe this. Out of the 2.5%, 0.3 is fresh water flowing in the rivers and in the lakes. The rest is water trapped in ice form. South Pole and these are the polar regions. So you see we have scarcity of fresh water. 2.5 fresh water and 0.3 available for drinking in liquid form. That makes fresh water a very rare commodity. But because we're used to taking things for granted, we think there is so much that we end up messing with fresh water. I was looking at the properties of water and I realized that water does a lot of things. Water acts as a coolant to the earth, to us. When it's hot, you sweat. That's water cooling your body. And the water in the atmosphere helps step down the temperatures, and in cloud form, it helps deflect a lot of sun's rays so that the earth remains cooler. Another interesting thing is that all animals come from water. Interesting, because some animals live in water. Human beings and other animals start their life in water. How? The embryo and everything that is involved in the production flows in water. You are conceived in the womb, you are protected by water. And on your path coming out, you are lubricated by water. There are some frogs also that lay their eggs up a tree, but you'll find there is a volume of water around the eggs, so they come from water. All of us like eggs. That is a bird producing on dry land, but the embryo starts in water. So water is a sustainer of life. It's a very interesting commodity. Of all commodities that are studied, water behaves in a very unique manner, because most liquids, when you freeze them from liquid to solid, they become heavy. Water, when it reaches around 2 degrees centigrade, a strange phenomenon happens. It expands. It forms crystals that expand. So the solid water becomes lighter than the liquid water, and it floats on water. A proper design by God, a unique liquid. And why does it do that? It now acts as a blanket when the earth is cold, so that the water below remains a bit warm. And oxygen can be able to penetrate between those molecules that are left, so that the animals underwater, it may be freezing cold, there is snow, ice on the water, but the animals are still warm enough to live, and they are able to get dissolved oxygen within the water system. That is a unique design that God made in the liquid called water. People have tried experiments in laboratories, and the ice they form in laboratories is not as complex, unique, and wonderful as the snow formed naturally. Because when they make theirs, the water crystals freeze, forming a kind of glass. They can be able sometimes to make it, but the glass structure prevents water from entering, air from entering into the system. It floats, but it doesn't act as well as the natural form. So we find that water is very important to us. For the animals that live on land that cannot be able to filter salt from water, like those that live in the ocean, we need this 0.3% that flows at the surface of all the water. That is the amount of fresh water that is available for us. This fresh water, you find some is brackish, the water that flows in swamps, and it provides an environment for certain animals. Like when I was young, I was born in Nakuru, but a town in Kenya, but there's a town where I started schooling, where my mother comes from, and there were birds like the crown crane. They like marshland. When people drained marshland, most of those animals have started getting extinct. That is the environment, a brackish environment. To us, we may not like it, but those animals fit there. Some types of fish fit there. There is life in the river's fresh water, and man has been doing very strange things to the fresh water. We pollute the fresh water, thinking that we have very large resources. That's the amount that is available for us. The largest amount of fresh water of the 2.5% is locked in ice. When we think of this, there are certain things that one should put in mind. There are countries that are good at using water. It's a very rare resource. If we deplete whatever we have, the rivers as you see them, everything as you see it, we shall end up having a problem of fresh water. It may mean now relying on the poles to get water. So we should be prudent in our use of water. Cleans water, because most of the water is a transport system in our body. That one we know. It's a coolant. But also outside, water is used for transportation. We use our ships on it. But what also happens when you are washing things and you are flushing your toilet, you use it as a sort of transportation for the wealth. So it can be a transportation means for vehicles, a transportation means for things you don't want. You want to clean the floor, you clean, it carries. Put it down the drain, it carries. It's still providing the transportation. But when you do that, it gets contaminated. We should think of sewer plants that clean, like some countries clean. I was told in Japan they are able to clean water, toilet water, just like the way we do wastewater. Clean it to a point that you can recycle it, take it back to the taps and use it just like the water we use. That is what happens to people who go in space. They recycle. You urinate, you do whatever, and then there are things that recycle. But we are not that desperate to be that. But for cleansing of water and water, it's important, very important for us. Because there is a small amount of water. We may be cheated by the volumes of the lakes we see, the rivers we see, but there is a little amount of fresh water. The Earth's formation, that's why some geographers say that there may have been axis shifts, because sometimes under the seabed, this is a strange phenomenon people did not know at first. If you drill, there are places that you reach, just like we get a natural well here. You may be able to reach it fresh water, but it's in small supply. And do people in the planet have to misuse everything so that we go to that level? The temperatures that have been rising have caused a problem in fresh water. There was a time I saw the North Pole. It's now not solid. Sometimes they're just ice floors here and there, and the places are constantly moving, but much of the snow in the north has been diminished due to rising temperatures. Animals like polar bears are almost dying out because they hunt seals under the snow, under the ice, but now when we are depleting that, the seals that live there are dying, the polar ice are dying. A polar ice is an animal that could not drown, but there have been cases now of polar ice drowning. A rare phenomena. So, what are we talking about? We're talking about conservation of nature. We conserve it for posterity. We should not be cheated the way we thought that forests were endless. And people would do anything they wanted with the forests. Now we want the forests back. They are very difficult to grow back at the rate that we want. Fresh water should also be preserved. Different water systems should be preserved because they provide homes for certain species of animals. And like I said before, animal species that live in a certain environment, when that environment is removed, most of them die out. And when they die out, in their design, there were certain important properties that God intended us to use. They disappear. So there are technologies that disappear that will never be found anywhere else. It's good for us to conserve whatever is happening. We should be serious in our conservation. We should be serious in the way we take things. Most of us take things for granted. There's been overfishing under the oceans. Some areas of oceans are always almost lifeless because people have used explosives. People have been drenching the oceans, with fishing nets, destroying everything under there. And most of the life is found along the coastal lines. There are some underwater systems of life systems which we've not come to. People realize sulfur dioxide can be able to take care of other systems under the ocean. There have been cases of volcanic flows under the ocean, and life forms are found around those areas. But we should not take everything for granted. Water is what sustains life on earth. And when we mess with water, we're likely to end up having very big problems with water. And mostly on land, in our continentals, the continents that we have, it is fresh water that is sustaining life, plants, and all plant life and animal life. It is fresh water that is keeping everything clean. Fresh water is good. People use it for making fountains, decoration, beauty. It's nice. It has got interesting properties. Without it, we die and the plants die. So, this is a wake-up call for us that the fresh water we have is not a lot like we think. It's a very rare commodity. 2.5% of all the water on earth. And what is flowing in the rivers out of that 2.5% is 0.49? Yeah. All the lakes and all, that is the amount. The rest is locked in ice. When we make the ice melt, the ice gets into the ocean. So we make the fresh water that is preserved in ice form salty. Those are things that many people have not told us, or we are told, but we never take care of. Because in most places you find people are careless. Lakes and rivers, people put raw sewage in lakes and rivers. Some rivers have become sewage flows. No life. We destroy important resources. Many of those rivers that we have let that flow in were home systems of some animals. They'll get extinct. You'll never see them again. Technologies that we would have extracted from them shall never be available to us again. It's interesting that some animals that people think are dangerous can be of important use. There is the arrow frog, very potent poison. But what people have realized is that if it's able to be diluted, maybe in future, it may be able to be used for operations. Tiny amount can be able to disable you almost in unconscious state, be able to do the operation safely, and you get back. Things like pufferfish, the fugu, the one that the Japanese use for sushi, a very poisonous outer cover, but that poison can end up being of medicinal value. There are designs of vehicles, designs of planes that mimic those animals that we see there. I was looking at some video and I was seeing the Americans are designing machines for war that can climb hills. They walk like a spider. These are designs that we get from the animals. You're able to mimic what that animal is doing and you're able to move. Think of possibilities of walking like a lizard and you're able to walk even on the ceiling. They have that capability. Imagine if all of them were gone. What do you study to get that capability? So as we think of ourselves, let's not forget that this is a very rare commodity. Fresh water is a rare commodity, and water in general is a rare commodity, because most of the air we breathe, a large portion comes from the forests. Russia and the other parts provide the largest volume, and the Amazon. And then almost 80% of the air we breathe comes from the small plants that grow in the ocean and planktons that feed those other animals. So when we contaminate that too, it means we are decreasing the volume of oxygen that we can be able to use. So I thought it prudent to talk about water. And water has many forms. Water has many uses. I saw some experiment being done where people, before the nuclear weapon was made from uranium, there was an experiment of trying to make water to make a hydrogen bomb, and it's possible. Because there are times when water is treated under different conditions, it can behave as two different liquids. Water can float on water, water can separate from water, depending on the conditions that it is treated. Sometimes depending on the temperatures. So water can be so many things. On Earth, in other planets, it also forms, it can be put under pressure almost to metallic level where it can conduct a lot of electricity. It can give a magnetic pole, just like the iron at the center, the core of the Earth is doing, because according to the studies, there are some planets which are basically water planets. When you go to the Quran, it talks of water. Very interesting, because the Bible says there was water and the Spirit of God was floating upon the water and darkness, and God commanded, let there be, let there be, let there be. But the Quran is very specific. It talks of, we created life from the water. Interesting? Yes. Water is a sustainer of life. So I know I cannot exhaust everything on water. There are so many things that can be talked about water. So many. These are just part of the things that we are sharing. and there is less time. And also, what would you be doing? Follow what those people who have been studying water. They are the experts there, the professors, and you will be able to get a lot more material on what water is. Do not take water for granted. Provider of life, a coolant in our body, a transport system in our body, a cleaner of our body, and so many other things. Take water seriously. The Quran says, and out of water we created life. That's what it says. That's my take for now.